Thank you for taking some time to hear some important updates from Indian Run. This season of social distancing and separation has been difficult for all of us. Some have contracted COVID-19, some have lost members of their family from COVID-19, some have lost their jobs or their employment has become unsteady, which has caused increased financial concerns for their families. For those who have turned to working at home or learning from home, it has caused additional stress. And for those who live by themselves, it's caused additional sense of isolation. And so we're concerned for one another in the midst of all of this. Of course, the biggest change for our family of faith has been our need to close the building and to worship online on Sunday mornings. We miss being with each other. I miss being with you. Being together via online worship and Zoom conference calls just isn't the same, is it? And yet that is our reality. The good news is that we're learning how the church is not just the building. Throughout this season, we have continued to fulfill our mission to grow love in countless creative ways. We are staying connected with one another. Most, but not all, small groups are continuing to meet via video conference and Zoom calls. Nick says that our youth ministry is continuing with the same level of participation it had before we entered into this COVID-19 season. Our children's ministry remains connected with children and families through the children's moments in our worship services, through social media posts, and through the connection table activities that are posted for children. The preschool did a wonderful job of staying connected with their children and their students, offering them continued love and support through regular YouTube videos. Our care ministry team continues to connect with our homebound parishioners and our seniors to ensure that they are feeling cared for. Our music ministries have continued to provide wonderful music for our worship services in new and creative ways. Our connection tables outside the church have allowed us to find that sense of connection to the church and to express our faith through the sidewalk chalk and through the Grow Love tree. We've started a weekly email that includes suggestions on how we can put our faith into action through missions, and we have stayed connected to our life of mission as a church. Our quilt team has made lots of masks that have been given away to Dublin Methodist Hospital, to New Life Community Outreach, and even to the members of our congregation and community. We continue to support the work of our mission partners like the Dublin Food Pantry and Welcome Warehouse and New Life Community Outreach and Habitat for Humanity. Welcome Warehouse has recently opened more of its operations and is beginning to reuse our facility for its work in the community. For many weeks now, the Red Cross has hosted blood drives at our church every Thursday to receive much needed supplies of blood for our community. The mission of the church continues, and I am so proud of all of the ways that we are continuing our connection. We are continuing to grow love through the ministries of Indian Run. So I wanted to take this opportunity to share with you a couple of important updates. First, I wanted to share the good news about our finances. Our most recent financial statement indicated that we are right on budget. We've received 98% of our projected income, and we've used 98% of our expected expenses for the year. Now, there will clearly be some changes in our income and our expenses for the year based on the things that we're not doing and the things that we've had to start do as a result of COVID-19. But we want to thank you for your continued faithful financial support. We couldn't do what we're doing as a church without your support. Of course, the church leadership and staff and finance teams will be paying close attention to the budget throughout the year and making adjustments as necessary. If you feel the need to adjust the amount of your estimate of giving for the year, we'd encourage you to let Lisa King know in the church office, and that will help us make appropriate changes and appropriate calculations for the remainder of this year. Next, on behalf of the staff parish relations team, I want to announce that the entire staff will be taking the first week of June off, from June 1st through June 7th. At a recent staff meeting, we realized together just how much we all needed some time off. Cindy shared with me recently a word of the day that her computer gives to her, and the word was repose, which means to rest or relax, to find a mental state without worry. And that's what our staff needs. That's what I need, to hit the reset button. Many of us had vacations planned that we weren't able to take because of the pandemic. So the SPR team has organized volunteers from the congregation to tend to the essentials of that first week of June, checking the mail every day, bringing it in, checking the building every day, checking the voicemail and an email for emergency situations that need to be notified. And of course, if there is an emergency, feel free to call the church and place a voicemail in the pastoral emergency mailbox, and we will be notified. We will still have online worship on Sunday, June 7th, but it won't be broadcast live. It will be pre-recorded and prepared in advance. All of the district superintendents of our conference have recorded sermons so that they can offer the clergy in their district the opportunity to take a Sunday off. And so we'll use one of those messages on June 7th. I want you to know how proud I am to serve alongside each and every one of our staff at the church. I hope that you're proud of them as well. I watch them continue to do amazing work for the sake of God's kingdom and to help us continue to stay on mission. And so I hope that if you have a moment and you could reach out to one of our staff members and just tell them how meaningful they are to you and to our life as a church. Next, on behalf of the children's ministry, I want to make a brief reminder that in-person VBS will not take place this June. But we want you to watch for an upcoming update as to how we might offer something of a substitute that our children's ministry team has been working on. So pay attention for announcements related to that. Now, finally, I want to talk about our plans for how we can reopen the building and resume in-person worship, how we can do that and when we think that might happen. We take Jesus' commandment to love one another seriously. And right now, the very best way to love one another is to stay physically distant. As much as we long to be back together in person, right now, the most loving thing we can do is to remain apart. Part of loving one another means keeping one another safe and doing no harm. While other businesses are opening up in this season, I want to remind you that church is different. When we gather in person for worship, we sit in the same space for long periods of time, which is currently not recommended. We sing together in worship, and by most accounts, singing is one of the easiest ways to transmit the virus as we continually project our voices and spittle and other aspirations that come out of us begin to fill the air. Now, last week, our church leadership reviewed a list of over 15 different considerations and decisions that we must face before responsibly moving forward and opening the building and resuming in-person worship. Their responses were reviewed yesterday by the reopening task force that has been called together. And that task force is comprised of me, Sean Cotter as the chair of our leadership team, Marilee Chinichi-Zerker as a trustee representative, Andrea Laux on behalf of the Welcoming and Hospitality Ministries, and Cindy Danko-Southey and Jose Manriquez as a part of the staff. Now, we are paying close attention to the guidance and best practices that have been made known to us through our federal and state and county governmental agencies. We're also paying attention to guidance from our bishop and conference and denomination, our insurance company, and our church leadership. Now, there are a few things that we know for sure. we know that reopening will need to happen in a multi-phased approach. Some things we will be able to do sooner than later. Other things will need to wait, potentially until we have a vaccine or other widespread immunity. No matter when we reopen, we know that there will be people who will not be able to come in person, maybe because they're a part of the vulnerable population, maybe because of a personal decision, maybe because of any other reason. These people will need to be able to live stream our worship services even when we reopen. We also know that we currently do not have the technological or human resources infrastructure to effectively live stream our services from our sanctuary. So this will take some time to design and order and install and test. The good news is that we have a team that is already working on this, and we have quotes underway from vendors. The leadership team has approved the expenditures that are going to be necessary to purchase and to support this live streaming effort. This will be an expensive undertaking, costing many thousands of dollars to do it right. So if you would be interested in making a contribution to help offset some of that expense, we would certainly welcome it. You can make your contributions, just note somewhere that it is for live streaming, and then our financial staff will have the ability to know how to designate that appropriately. So the Reopening Task Force has decided that phase 1 of our reopening plan will be to continue worshiping online separately via live stream until we can offer a high quality live stream experience from the sanctuary. When we return to in-person worship, we don't want our live stream to be an afterthought. We want those who can't return in person to have the same kind of quality worship experience that they might experience if they were there in person in the sanctuary. As I said, it will take some time to get our live stream running in the sanctuary. And as with any project, it always takes longer than you hope it would. Our hope is to have the live streaming ready by mid-July so that we can have at least 1 or 2 soft opening Sundays where we can test it out before we would enter into phase 2 and begin in-person worship, which we hope to do on the first Sunday in August. Of course, our return to in-person worship will be dependent upon the then current guidance from our government and our denomination. As we have experienced, new information comes out each and every day, so we can expect the guidance to be different later in the summer than it is now. Maybe one way, maybe another. The desired August start date for in-person worship for phase 2 will also give us the time we need to get the technology ready, and it will give us the opportunity to see how things are going in other places as our community and as other churches begin to open up. During this time, we will continue to make detailed plans for exactly how we will go about opening up the building and having in-person worship in phase 2. When we can resume activities like children's ministry or fellowship time will probably not happen until phase 3 or later. Now, I know that August feels like a long way away, and I know that some will be really disappointed that we're going to wait that long, while others will think that maybe even August might be too soon to open back up. We recognize the need to connect with one another face to face. And we considered having outdoor worship services. But in the end, we ran into that same challenge of making the service feel good for everyone, including those who would be worshiping online. And live streaming our worship from outside is not something that we feel we can do effectively. The good news is that we came up with a compromise that I am really excited about. Our worship planning team met this past Wednesday night, and we developed a plan for a sermon series for June and July called Faith at the Movies. We will be looking in my sermons at themes of faith that we find in film. And the best part is that we will be offering a Friday night viewing party for each and every one of the films. We'll be doing that outside the church in the courtyard where we can come together and see each other while remaining physically distant. There will be movies for all generations. Back to the Future, Inside Out, Breakfast at Tiffany's, Remember the Titans, The Greatest Showman, The Lion King, and Yesterday. Join us on Friday nights for 7 weeks, starting on June 12th. Bring your face mask, bring your lawn chair, bring a blanket, bring your snacks. It will be a great way for us to gather in a safer way outside until we can hopefully gather inside for worship. Now, the staff will also be trying some options that may allow us to stream the Sunday morning service from that same courtyard for those who would be interested in gathering together outside to worship together. And so we invite you to watch for more information on that. So friends, that's where we stand right now. I will continue to offer you updates like this as needed so that you can remain as informed as possible. Now, one of the treasures of being a part of the Indian Run community of faith is our Irish blessing. It is so full of inspiration and hope, and it reminds us that there will be a time when we will see each other again. And so until that time, may God continue to bless you, and may we stay on mission to grow love in all the ways that we can. God bless.